The text from my brother Diego came at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. Dad's promotion dinner Saturday 7 p.m. Lawson's Steakhouse. Don't be late. And Isabella, please dress nicely. First impressions matter. I read it from my desk at Sterling Property Group, where I just finished reviewing the quarterly returns on my commercial real estate portfolio. 47 properties across downtown, generating $4.2 million in monthly rental income. Total portfolio value, approximately $340 million. My phone buzzed again. Diego, also it's a nice restaurant. If money's tight, I can spot you for dinner. I smiled and didn't respond. Diego owned 3 rental properties, a duplex and 2 condos he'd purchased using Dad's connections and family money. He never stopped talking about them. Real estate is how you build wealth, Isabella, he'd say at every family gathering. You should stop throwing money away on rent and invest in property. What Diego didn't know, what none of my family knew, was that I'd been buying property for 6 years. And not just buying it, building an empire. It started small. At 26, I'd used my signing bonus from Sterling to purchase a rundown duplex in an emerging neighborhood. I renovated it, rented both units, and used the cash flow plus my salary to buy another property. Then another. Then I started identifying commercial opportunities. Small retail spaces, office buildings with vacancy problems, restaurant properties with struggling tenants. I had a gift for seeing potential where others saw problems. A vacant building near the new transit line? I bought it for $800,000, held it for 18 months while the neighborhood developed, then sold it for $2.4 million. A struggling strip mall? Bought it, brought in better tenants, tripled the value in 2 years. By 30 I had 12 properties. By 32 I had 30 properties and had quit my job at Sterling to manage my portfolio full-time. Now at 34 I had 47 properties, most of them commercial, all of them profitable. My family thought I was renting a studio apartment and working odd jobs in property management. Close enough to the truth that I didn't have to lie, vague enough that they filled in their own assumptions. Those assumptions were always negative. Saturday arrived. I dressed carefully, a simple black dress, elegant but not flashy. Modest jewelry. Hair pulled back. The kind of outfit that said, making an effort but clearly can't afford designer clothes. I drove to Lawson's Steakhouse in my 7-year-old Honda Civic, parking it among the Mercedes and BMWs in the lot. The Civic was deliberate. I could afford any car I wanted, but the Civic was invisible. It didn't attract attention or questions. Lawson's Steakhouse was one of my favorite properties. I'd bought the building 3 years ago when the previous restaurant tenant went bankrupt. The location was prime, downtown, high-foot traffic near the theater district, but the business had failed due to poor management. I'd brought in Thomas Lawson, a brilliant chef who'd been working in someone else's kitchen for 20 years. Gave him a partnership deal. I owned the building and provided startup capital. He owned the business and ran operations. We split profits 60-40 after expenses. 3 years later, Lawson's was the hottest steakhouse in the city. Reservations booked months out. James Beard Award nominations. Featured in food magazines. The building had appreciated from my $3.2 million purchase price to an estimated $12 million, and the restaurant business itself was worth another $8 million. Property number 23 in my portfolio. And my family had no idea. I walked into the restaurant and was greeted by Marcus, the sommelier. He knew who I really was, all the staff did. But we'd rehearsed this. Tonight I was just another guest. Good evening, miss, Marcus said formally. Your party is in the private dining room. Thank you. The private dining room was elegant. Exposed brick, dim lighting, a table set for 12. Dad sat at the head, beaming, already celebrating his promotion to senior vice president at Hartwell Industries. Mom was beside him, regal in pearls. Diego and his wife Amanda sat close to Dad, their 2 kids miraculously absent, probably with a babysitter I'd be expected to chip in for later. Also present, my uncle Roberto, Aunt Carmen, 2 of Dad's work colleagues and a few family friends. All successful, all accomplished, all ready to celebrate Dad's achievement. I was seated at the far end of the table. Naturally. Isabella. Mom called out. You made it. We weren't sure you'd come. Of course I came. Congratulations, Dad. Dad nodded. Thank you, Mija. Big promotion. 20% salary increase, executive benefits package, corner office. That's wonderful. Diego raised his wine glass. To Dad. proof that hard work and smart investments pay off. Everyone toasted. I sipped my water. Speaking of investments, Diego continued, looking at me. Isabella, have you thought more about what I said? About buying property instead of renting? Here we go. I'm considering options, I said neutrally. You've been considering options for years, Diego said. Meanwhile, rent prices keep going up. I just closed on my third investment property last month. A condo near the university. Great rental market. That's great, Diego. You could do the same thing. Start small. Maybe a studio apartment. Build equity instead of making your landlord rich. Amanda nodded enthusiastically. Diego's so smart about real estate. We're building generational wealth for our children. Diego learned from the best, Dad said proudly. I taught him to think long-term. Property ownership is the foundation of financial security. Uncle Roberto leaned forward. Isabella, what exactly do you do for work now? Your mother mentioned something about property management. I work in real estate, I said simply. As an agent? Aunt Carmen asked. Not exactly. As a property manager then? Like managing apartment buildings for owners. Something like that. Diego jumped in. She handles maintenance requests and tenant issues. It's honest work but not exactly building wealth, you know? I smiled and said nothing. The first course arrived. Oysters on the half-shell, beautifully presented. I knew the seafood supplier personally. We'd negotiated the contract together when Thomas was setting up his vendor relationships. This place is incredible, one of Dad's colleagues said. How do you get a reservation? I tried for my anniversary and they were booked solid. Dad smiled. I have some connections. When you reach a certain level professionally, doors open. The irony was almost painful. Dinner progressed through multiple courses. The food was exquisite. Thomas was a master. Between courses, the conversation kept returning to success, achievement and property ownership. Diego was relentless. The duplex I bought 5 years ago has appreciated 40%, he announced. That's how you build wealth. Strategic property investment. You've done well, son, Dad said. Much better than paying rent month after month with nothing to show for it. He didn't look at me, but the implication was clear. Amanda brought up their recent vacation. A week in Cabo, staying at a resort. We could afford it because our properties generate passive income, she said. That's the beauty of real estate investing. Exactly, Diego agreed. Once you own enough properties, they pay for your lifestyle. Right, Dad? That's the dream, Dad confirmed. Though it takes discipline and smart decision-making. Not everyone has that. By the main course, a perfect ribeye that I knew cost $89 per plate. My patience was wearing thin. But I maintained my composure. I'd learned over the years that the best response to condescension was silence. Let them reveal themselves. Then Diego went for the kill. So Isabella, he said loudly enough for the whole table to hear, still renting that studio apartment in the Riverside district? All conversation stopped. Yes, I said simply. How much are you paying now? Rent must have gone up. It's manageable. See, this is what I'm talking about, Diego said, addressing the table. My sister's been renting the same studio for 6 years? Probably paid over $100,000 in rent by now. Money just gone. If she'd bought a property 6 years ago like I suggested, she'd have built equity. Maybe even owned it by now. Diego has a point, Uncle Roberto said. Real estate is the smartest investment. Some of us own property, Diego continued with false sympathy. Some of us are still figuring things out. But it's never too late to start, Isabella. I can help you look at starter condos if you want. Something affordable. The table murmured sympathetically. Poor Isabella, still renting, still struggling, while successful Diego owned multiple properties. Amanda touched Diego's arm. You're so generous, offering to help your sister. Dad cleared his throat. Isabella, your brother has offered to help you several times. Maybe you should take him up on it. Pride won't build you equity. I appreciate the concern, I said calmly. It's not just concern, Mom said. It's reality. You're 34, Mija. Still renting, no property, no real stability. We worry about your future. My future is fine. Is it? Diego pressed. Because from where I'm sitting, you're working in property management. Basically a step up from building maintenance, while living in a tiny apartment. That doesn't scream fine to me. The table went quiet. Several people looked uncomfortable but nobody contradicted him. That's when Marcus, the sommelier, approached our table. He carried a leather folder, the kind expensive restaurants use for presenting wine lists. But this wasn't a wine list. "Excuse me," Marcus said professionally. "Ms. Martinez?" I looked up. "Yes. The building manager asked me to deliver these deed updates for your signature. We need them filed with the county by Monday morning." He placed the folder in front of me and opened it. Inside were property deeds, legal documents, and title updates. The top document was clearly visible to everyone at the table. Property deed amendment. Lawson's Steakhouse building. For 32 Commerce Street. Owner, Isabella Sofia Martinez. Appraised value, $12,000,000. The table went silent. Marcus continued, either oblivious or playing his part perfectly. "All 47 properties in your downtown portfolio need signatures for the annual assessment updates. The building manager compiled them since you mentioned you'd be dining here tonight." He flipped through the folder, revealing document after document. Each one showed a different property, each one showing my name as owner. Diego's wine glass was halfway to his mouth, frozen. 47 properties? Dad's voice came out strangled. "Yes, sir," Marcus said politely. "Ms. Martinez owns quite an extensive commercial real estate portfolio downtown. This building we're in tonight is property number 23. You own this building?" Uncle Roberto stared at me. "Yes," I said simply. Marcus pulled out a particular document. "Ms. Martinez, the building manager flagged this one specifically. The retail complex on 5th and Market, property number 12. The tenant buyout is being finalized. That's the $4.8 million acquisition we discussed." "Yes, that's correct." "Excellent. Legal needs your signature to proceed." He stood there professionally while I pulled out my pen and began signing documents. The table watched in absolute silence as I worked through the stack. Property after property. Commercial buildings. Retail complexes. Office spaces. Restaurant properties. When I finished, Marcus gathered the documents. "Thank you, Ms. Martinez. I'll have these delivered to your attorney first thing Monday morning. And please, let me know if tonight's meal meets your expectations. Chef Lawson always wants your feedback." "Everything is excellent, Marcus. Please tell Thomas I'm very pleased." "Of course. He'll be delighted." Marcus nodded to the table. "Enjoy your evening, everyone." He left. The silence was deafening. Then Diego spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "You own this restaurant?" "I own the building," I corrected. "Thomas Lawson owns the business. We're partners." "Partners," Diego repeated numbly. "Yes. I provided the building and startup capital. He provides the culinary expertise. We split the profits after operating expenses." Dad found his voice. "Isabella, what exactly is going on?" "I own commercial real estate," I said calmly. 47 properties, most of them downtown. Office buildings, retail spaces, restaurant properties, mixed-use developments. I've been building my portfolio for 6 years. 6 years, Mom whispered. "The same time you've been renting that studio apartment." "Yes. The studio is convenient and inexpensive. Why would I waste money on an expensive residence when I could invest it in income-generating properties?" Amanda looked like she might faint. How much is your portfolio worth?" "Current market value is approximately $340 million. Though that fluctuates based on market conditions and property developments." The number hit the table like a bomb. $340 million, Uncle Roberto said faintly. "Yes." Diego's face had gone pale. "But I have 3 properties. You said you were considering my advice." "I was being polite," I said gently. "Diego, I bought my first property the same year you bought your duplex. While you were buying your second and third properties with Dad's money and family loans, I was buying my 10th, 15th, and 20th properties with cash from my rental income and property appreciation." "Why didn't you tell us?" Mom asked. "Because of this," I gestured at the table. "Because every time I've achieved something, this family has found a way to diminish it, criticize it, or turn it into evidence that I'm not measuring up." "That's not true," Dad protested. "Isn't it?" I looked at him directly. "When I got accepted to that advanced economics program at Stanford, you said it was a waste of money and convinced me to go to state school instead. When I got the job at Sterling Property Group, you said real estate was just sales and not a real career. When I tried to tell you about my first property purchase, you lectured me for an hour about how I was too young and inexperienced. The table was silent. So I stopped telling you, I continued. I built my business quietly. I made my decisions without asking for your approval. And I succeeded beyond anything you imagined possible. Diego looked stricken. I've been giving you advice about buying property. For years. I've been telling you to invest in real estate while you owned 47 properties. Yes. Why didn't you say anything? Would you have believed me? Or would you have found reasons why my properties weren't as good as yours? Why my strategy was flawed? Why I was doing it wrong? He didn't answer because we both knew the truth. Dad's colleague spoke up, the one who'd been impressed with the restaurant. Ms. Martinez, did I hear correctly that you own the building we're in? This entire building? Yes. I'm in commercial real estate development, he said. This property alone is worth 12 to 15 million in the current market. You bought it when? 3 years ago. I paid $3.2 million for the building when the previous tenant went bankrupt. That's a 375% return in 3 years, he said, impressed. And you partnered with Lawson? That's brilliant. His restaurant has elevated the property value significantly. That was the strategy. Bring in a talented operator, create a destination business, let the property value increase. Dad was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. You've done this 47 times? Each property is different. Some I buy and hold for appreciation. Some I renovate and flip. Some I develop partnerships like this one. Some generate rental income from commercial tenants. It's a diverse portfolio designed to balance risk and return. Uncle Roberto shook his head. Mija, I'm in finance. Do you understand what you've accomplished? A $340 million portfolio by age 34? That's extraordinary. Thank you. Why the secrecy? Aunt Carmen asked. Why live in a studio apartment if you're worth hundreds of millions? Because I don't need a big house, I said simply. I need cash flow for investments. Every dollar I save on personal expenses is a dollar I can invest in the next property. Besides, the studio is in a great location, it's affordable, and it keeps me focused on business rather than lifestyle. Diego's voice was hollow. I thought I was the successful one. I thought I was teaching you about real estate. You are successful, I said not unkindly. You own 3 properties. That's more than most people. You should be proud of that. But you own 47. Yes. And you let me lecture you about property investment. Yes. Why? I considered this. Because Diego, if I'd told you the truth 3 years ago, what would you have done? Would you have celebrated with me? Or would you have found reasons to diminish it? Would you have supported my success? Or would you have needed to compete with it? He didn't answer. Thomas Lawson himself appeared at the table wearing his chef's whites. He was a bear of a man 6'4" with a warm smile. Ms. Martinez, he said. Marcus told me you were dining here tonight. I wanted to personally ensure everything is perfect. It's excellent, Thomas. As always. I'm so glad. He turned to the table. Your daughter and I are partners in this restaurant. She's the reason this place exists. I'd been working in other people's kitchens for 20 years, dreaming of having my own restaurant. Ms. Martinez gave me that opportunity. You're the chef? Dad asked. Chef and owner of the business, yes. Ms. Martinez owns the building and was my primary investor. She believed in my vision when no one else would. How did you two meet? Mom asked. Thomas smiled. I was working at a hotel restaurant. Ms. Martinez ate there one night, complimented the food and asked who the chef was. We talked for hours about my dream of opening my own place. 2 weeks later, she presented me with a business proposal. 3 months after that, we opened Lawson's. Just like that. Diego said. Ms. Martinez moves quickly when she sees potential, Thomas said. It's her gift. She saw an empty building and a frustrated chef and she created this. He gestured at the elegant dining room. We're booked solid for the next 4 months. We've been nominated for a James Beard Award. And the building value has nearly quadrupled. He nodded respectfully. Enjoy your meal. The dessert course is complimentary tonight. My way of saying thank you to Ms. Martinez's family. After he left, the table sat in stunned silence. Finally, Dad spoke. Isabella, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. But I do. We've treated you like you were struggling. Like you were failing. And all this time, All this time I was building an empire, I finished. While you were celebrating Diego's 3 properties and suggesting I needed help getting started. Mom reached across the table. Mija, I'm so sorry. For what specifically? She flinched. For not seeing you. For not believing in you. For letting you believe we thought you weren't successful. You did think that, I said quietly. You all did. And you were fine with it. It made you feel better about yourselves, having someone in the family to pity, to offer charity to feel superior to. That's harsh, Uncle Roberto said. Is it? Diego literally just offered to help me look at starter condos because he felt sorry for me. Dad suggested I lacked discipline and smart decision-making. Mom worried about my future. All while I was sitting on a $340 million real estate portfolio. Aunt Carmen wiped her eyes. You're right. We were horrible. Not horrible, I corrected. Just blind. You saw what you expected to see. Diego finally met my eyes. I'm sorry, Isabella. I've been insufferable. Yes, you have. Can you forgive me? Eventually. But Diego, you need to understand something. I'm not your little sister who needs your guidance. I'm not someone you can mentor or help. I'm a successful businesswoman who's accomplished more in 6 years than you will in your entire life. And that has to be okay with you. He nodded slowly. It's going to take me a while to adjust to this. Take your time. Dad stood up, came around the table and stopped in front of me. Isabella, I've been a fool. I taught you to undervalue yourself. I'm sorry. You taught me to value myself quietly, I corrected. You taught me that family approval wasn't necessary for success. You taught me to build something real instead of something impressive. That's generous. It's true. Your dismissal made me independent. Your lack of support made me self-reliant. Your criticism made me stronger. Mom was crying openly now. Can we start over? Can you tell us about your business? About your life? Maybe, I said. But it has to be different, Mom. You can't invite me to family dinners just so Diego can lecture me. You can't introduce me to people as still figuring things out. You can't treat my success as less important than everyone else's. We won't, Dad promised. Prove it, I said. Prove it over time. Prove it through consistent respect and genuine interest. One apology at a dinner doesn't erase years of dismissal. The dessert arrived. A spectacular chocolate soufflé that Thomas had created just for tonight. We ate in relative silence, everyone processing the evening's revelations. As we prepared to leave, the general manager appeared with the check presenter. Dad reached for it automatically. The manager smiled. Actually, sir, there's no check. Ms. Martinez's guests always dine complimentary. I don't need comp meals, Dad protested. It's not about need, I said. It's my restaurant. My gift to you for your promotion. Congratulations, Dad. You've worked hard. You deserve to celebrate. He looked at me, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. Thank you, Mija. As we walked out of the restaurant, Diego fell into step beside me. Your Honda Civic, he said. The one you've been driving for 7 years. What about it? Why do you still drive it? You could afford anything. Because it's reliable and it doesn't attract attention. Same reason I keep the studio apartment. I'm not trying to impress anyone, Diego. I'm trying to build wealth. That's the difference between us, isn't it? I bought properties to show people I was successful. You bought properties to actually be successful. Yes. We reached the parking lot. My 7-year-old Civic sat between a Mercedes and a Tesla. Does anyone know? Diego asked. About your portfolio? My attorney knows. My accountant knows. The building managers know. The tenants know me as their landlord. But in terms of family and social circles? Well, I keep it private. Why tell us tonight then? Because I was tired, I said honestly. Tired of the condescension. Tired of being treated like a failure. Tired of watching you all celebrate mediocrity while dismissing excellence. He winced. That's what you think of my properties? Mediocrity? No, Diego. I think your 3 properties are a solid investment. But I think your attitude about them, the superiority, the lectures, the assumption that you know better than everyone else, that's mediocre. You have a decent portfolio. I have an empire. There's a difference. I unlocked my Civic. Drive safely. And Diego. Yeah. Stop offering to help me. If anything, you should be asking me for advice. I drove away, leaving my family standing in the parking lot of a restaurant I owned, finally seeing me for who I actually was. My phone buzzed as I pulled onto the highway. A text from my property manager. The office complex on 7th Street just got a new tenant. 5-year lease, $180,000 annually. Property number 31 is now at full occupancy. I smiled. 47 properties. $340 million portfolio. Built quietly, strategically, relentlessly. While my family thought I was struggling to pay rent on a studio apartment. They'd never underestimate me again. And honestly, that was worth more than all the properties combined.